Hi, everyone. This is your host, Pamela Horton, with Awaken to Your Greatest Life, discovering the secrets to experiencing your best life yet. I'm so excited to welcome you to our call with our guest, David Breslow. David is an author and speaker who has appeared on over 150 radio and television stations and worked with diverse clients from professionals in business, sports, entertainment, and the private sector. David has been called Mr. Simple because he has helped people to quickly and consistently transform what they think, feel, and do to move past old limiting patterns in a way they never thought could be so simple. David believes there is a better way to get what you want and that you are closer to it than you may realize. And on today's call with David, you'll discover the one simple truth that will help you begin change today. You'll learn how to blow past fear immediately. You'll explore why coping leads to mediocrity in your life and what to do about it and why it doesn't help you. You'll learn why tips and strategies sound good but create sporadic results in your life. You'll acquire a new tool that you can take everywhere to actually be different instead of hoping to be different. You'll see why the outcomes you get or don't get in your life are governed by law, as well as experience an interactive exercise that will shock you and show you why change is difficult so you can stop wasting time, money, and energy. David, I'm so happy you are here. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the call.
Hey, thank you very much, Pamela. It's always great to be here. It's good to talk with you. I've been looking forward to this for a while now.
Me too. I can't wait to get started. But before we do, can you do me a favor and take about 2 to 3 minutes and share with us what you believe to be the major turning points that allowed you to manifest your current level of success?
Sure. Actually, this came to me, the Wired to Win program that I'm really talking about with you today, really came about as a result of my horrible performance as a tennis player. I was a competitive tennis player some years ago, and I was one of those players that looked really good in practice, but when I started to compete, and I played a lot of tournaments and competitions, I was an absolute abomination. I was horrible in competition. I was scared. I was nervous. I had no self-esteem whatsoever. My only goal on the court was to hit a few fancy shots and have people go, ooh, he's really good. And it was so incredibly frustrating for me that I remember one very specific day I was playing a tournament in the first round, which is where I tended to lose most of the time, and lose to players who were not nearly as physically talented as I was, not nearly. And it happened again. And I ran out to the car, and I started pounding the poor roof of my car with my tennis rackets, and I'm yelling and screaming in the parking lot, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep doing this? What is wrong with me? And all of a sudden, in the middle of my rant, this quiet voice just came up, and all I heard it say was, why don't you go back to the mind-body truths you knew when you were younger? That's all it said to me. And when I heard that, I kind of stopped, and I sat down on the ground next to the car, and I realized that since I was a kid, eight years old maybe, I understood these mind-body realities, and I didn't hold on to them because they used to scare me, that I could really be that good and that these things were really true about these mind-body realities, all these things that people read about in books and The Secret and things like that. So I started to defer to the quote-unquote experts, the sports psychologists, the life coaches, the therapists, the counselors, and I thought they knew better because they were people who had that profession, right? And then I realized I was wrong about that. I went back and I realized there are these mind-body realities, and I didn't call them laws at the time. That was created just a few years later, and I realized there were these laws and these truths about how all human beings produce outcomes. And when I realized that, that's when I put the Wired to Win program together, 7 laws, 21 days, transform the way you live, work, and play. And it was a direct result of that final breakthrough experience related to tennis. Who knew? These things can come from anywhere, right? Who knew it would come to me from the world of tennis, of all things? But I was a tennis player. I've been playing for a number of years. I taught the game, and, it was a huge part of my life. and a huge part of my frustration, but I kept playing. I used to ask myself, why would somebody continue to put themselves through this kind of suffering? Because I was really suffering. It was horrible for me to play tournaments. I mean, really, really uncomfortable. But I kept coming back. Why? Why would somebody do that? And I realized that the only reason all of us keep coming back to anything, even though we're suffering, is because there's a part of us that truly knows we're better than that. Truly. Otherwise, think about it. Why would somebody continually put themselves in harm's way like that? It's because we believe there's a part of us that's really better than this and deserves more than this, so we keep plugging away. Even though we keep plugging away the wrong way, we keep suffering and suffering and suffering. I was doing that for a couple years until I turned it around. And once I put the program together, my game started to change. I became somebody that other people love to hit against and practice, and they love to play against. Because the better players, the better people in anything, not the better people, but the more talented people, the people with the right mindset, they love going up against the better performers, because the better performers bring out the best in them. So somebody who is truly in that mindset wants to play somebody who's playing well. They didn't want to play somebody like me. I was a walkover. All you had to do was blow something out of your mouth and I would fall over. It was that bad for me. And those players didn't enjoy playing somebody who was kind of a wimp like me. They didn't want to play somebody who kept giving away points because they were nervous and scared. They wanted to play somebody who would fight against them and make them play better. And that's what I became. After about, I'd say, 4, 5, 6 weeks of doing what I'm now teaching, my mindset completely changed. I became what they call a tough out in the tennis game. If you were going to beat me, I still lost matches, of course, but if you were going to beat me, you really had to work at it, and you had to play a good level game because I wasn't going to give you anything most of the time. And that's what the pure essence of the game was for me, so I started really to enjoy the game. And in life, it's the same thing. It's the pure essence of living that life that is truly made up of what you're great at, what you're not so great at, what you want to keep developing, what you want to keep working at, what you want to see in your life as results or changes right in front of your eyes. That's the essence of living a life that feels really good. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely, and I can also see why it feeling really good could also feel really foreign, but I'm just so honored that you're here to be able to share that experience, and thank you to the game of tennis for sure.
Yeah, thank you, right. Who knew? Never would have known it would have been that.
Right.
But it can come from anywhere.
Right. Before we begin or go into the call, I just want to let everyone know who's listening to please have a pen and some paper handy for the interactive exercise that David's going to be sharing with us later on in the call. David, I just love the experience that you just shared. Can you tell us, why is it that you're known as Mr. Simple? What's the real reason?
Well, I know that sounds funny, but the real reason is because literally my point of view is very clear and it's very simple. And people often come to me downloading all their issues and all their problems and, oh, then I did this, and then I had that relationship, and then I don't have money, and so on and so forth, and one thing after another. And I'm the one that kind of looks at them and says, well, wait a minute. Do you realize how close you are to getting what you want? And then I tell them what I do, and I don't offer any tips or strategies. It's another thing that blows people away, because 99.9% of the programs out there offer tips and strategies. That's the basis for what they do. And I will tell you that I will never offer you a single tip or a single strategy. And people stare at me and go, what, are you kidding me? I said, no. I teach laws. They are laws by which all human beings produce outcomes. And the law of attraction, by the way, is not one of them. Most people think it is. But there are laws by which every one of us produce outcomes, period. They don't require your belief, or your opinion of them is completely irrelevant. They don't care. So they're going to produce an outcome either way. The most common question I seem to get is, Dave, are you kidding me? Are you telling me that I can go from point A to point B in my life just by understanding these laws and how they produce outcomes? And I go, yeah, that's right. So I tend to take the stories people tell me, clouded with all of the junk is the word I use, and then I break it all down very quickly and go, okay, you're here right now, but you want to be over there, right? Yeah, okay. If you apply these laws, You can go from here to there starting today. Really? Is that simple? Yeah. Because society has taught most of us that we have to go through this long, drawn-out process. You have to go to a therapist or be in a psychology arena or environment for weeks and weeks or months and months or years and years and work all this stuff out. And I sit here and go, well, why? Why? Because even when you're done with all that stuff, don't you realize that you have to do something? Even when you thought you cleared everything away and you understood everything that ever happened to you in your past and why, even at that moment, you have to do something to get what you want. So I sit here and say, why do we need to go all through that to get what you want? Why can't we just get what you want now? So I have a very different, unique, whatever one wants to call it, perspective on life and human beings and how we produce outcomes here on this planet. And it does not involve going back and getting stuck in the history and all of that stuff that we tend to get stuck in. I've had professional athletes call me who I've never met, but I knew who they were by their name, and the first thing they do is download to me all their problems. And I give them about 5 or 7 minutes, and then I stop them on the phone, and they go, well, wait a minute, don't you need to know all my history to help me? And I go, no, I don't. Well, they go, everybody else did. I said, I know, because that's the model they come to. You talk to a bunch of sports psychologists, and they all wanted to know your story for the last 15 years. I don't need to know it. And by the way, you told me the same story 10 different ways. You know, what makes you think I didn't get it? I got it the first time. You're suffering. And then they go, yeah, that's right. I said, well, do you think your suffering is any different than Joe the butcher down the street where you live? And they go, I never thought of that. Well, think about it. Suffering is suffering. All human beings pretty much suffer the same way. It's not comfortable. It doesn't feel good, does it? No. Okay. You want to put an end to the suffering? Yeah. So that's what we do. But I don't spend time mired in all the junk that they think is important when it's really not. So that's why I'm generally called Mr. Simple. Actually, the real name, Pam, I didn't send it to you, but on my website I used to have, the real thing they called me was the Simple Idiot. That's what they used to call me. But when I put that on the website, people would call me and go, Dave, come on, really? Idiot? That's not good. So I took it down. But that's what they really used to call me, the Simple Idiot. Because I would just sit here with a smile and I'd listen to people talk and tell their story. And, you know, we've been told that our story is everything. And I'm not dismissing the nuggets that come out of all of our stories, because we all have golden nuggets in there. And I'm not dismissing the experience anybody has. It's not about that. The problem is that so many of us get mired in that story thinking that we have to go straighten that story out to get what we want. And I'm sitting here saying, no, you don't. It's really that simple. No, you do not. You really don't.
I love it. You really simplified the process from going from point A to point B. Many people try different models and approaches. Many people just try varieties of techniques. And tell us, why are results so sporadic?
Well, that's interesting. In my opinion, and I've studied lots of models over the last 15 years, all the way from Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, down to Joe Schmo and Hodongayala somewhere. There's tons of life coaches out in the world now, of course. Everybody's got some kind of process or model. But here are the two biggest flaws that I find, and this answers your question. Flaw number one is your problems are not your problems. So when you call most people and they ask you, well, why are you calling? And you say, well, I procrastinate and I need more confidence or things like that. They will agree with you that those are your problems, because most people think those are their problems, and that coach will agree with you. So, okay, those are your problems. If you call me and you tell me that, I will say to you, none of those things you just said to me are your problems. And then somebody will go, yes, they are. And I go, no, they're not. And they go, yes, they are. No, they're not. Yes, they are. We go around in circles with that for about 2 minutes. So they get a little frustrated, and I finally say, look, here's the reality. I know society would have you believe that those are your problems, and you even believe they are, but I'm telling you, they're not. They're only symptoms of the real problem. That's all they are. And if you were my doctor, I would fire you on the spot for treating my symptoms. I have no desire to help treat your symptoms, because that doesn't help you. So your problems aren't your problems. That's flaw number one. The reality is you only have one problem. Anybody listening to this right now only has one problem, and that problem is you. Because if you had any idea how often you were creating all the junk that you think are your problems, you would immediately understand that they're not problems. They're really not. You actually created them 85% of the time. So that's flaw number one. Flaw number two directly answers your question. How do most programs help you resolve your problems? They give you tips, they give you strategies, and what we call coping mechanisms. So the reality is when I talk to people, 95% of the people who I ask, do you use tips and strategies? And they say, yes, I do. And my next question is, how long do they last? Usually when I ask that question, they laugh because they know, they understand. The most common answer I get is, well, not that long. I say, well, if you try tips and strategies and they don't last that long, why do you keep going after more of them? Because that's what society has taught most of us to do. Keep gathering more, keep gathering more. Maybe you'll get that one thing that puts you over the top. And they've been searching and searching for years. I say, so why do you keep doing it? And the most common answer is, I don't know what else to do. And they're right. They don't know what else to do. Because everywhere they turn, every article they read, every Dr. Phil show they look at, every half-hour personal development, let me help you live a better life show they look at, is loaded with tips. That's all you ever get, tips and strategies. No real understanding about almost anything. So here's the reason I will never help people be better copers. And I tend to prove everything I say, so nobody ever has to believe Breslow when he says something. Everything is provable, which is great. So I'm going to prove to you and everyone on the call now why I will never help anyone be a better coper. Coping leads to mediocrity, and here's why. When you look in the dictionary and you look up the synonyms for the word cope, C-O-P-E, here's what you'll find. To deal with, to handle, to get by, to manage, to struggle with, and my all-time favorite, to survive. Now, when I tell people this, I say, look, is this what you strive to do? Handle stuff, get by stuff, manage things, struggle, survive? And they go, no. I say, well, that's what you're doing. When you get coping skills, meaning tips and strategies and concepts and theories, the problem with those are they never hang around that long. 95% will admit it goes away. Why does it go away? Because you don't own it. You have not changed. You don't own it. You're counting on that tip or that strategy to be responsible for the change you're looking for, and it almost never is. That's why they go away. And that's why people get frustrated and then look for more. They think, okay. They don't realize they made a mistake the first time looking for tips, so they double the mistake by doing it again. And then they triple it, and then they quadruple it, and then they keep going. And they scratch their heads and get very frustrated. And then they come up against somebody like me, and I go, yeah, you know what? You played that game already. Do you really want to pay me to give you more tips and strategies? And when asked that question, they'll go, well, not really. It's just that that's all I've ever gotten. And I'll say, well, okay. You're now talking to somebody who's not going to give you one. And they're pretty well blown away by that. Really? How's that possible? Everybody does that. I said, I know. I don't need to. So that's the reason why tips and strategies don't last that long and people get frustrated. Basically, it's because they don't own what they're doing. They borrowed the idea from somebody, and then they tried it on like a shirt or a pair of pants, and it worked for a day or two. Very common. I think people on the call know what I'm talking about. I can almost see their heads kind of bobbing up and down like, yeah, that's what that happened to me too.
I know I am.
Well, I've done it too. That's why I know I'm saying this from experience as well. I've tried all the tips and strategies. That's why I got so frustrated and turned to these mind-body truths again. That's why that voice came to me. I was so frustrated with the tennis thing. That was just a microcosm of everything else. It just all fed into that. But because I played so much tennis and it was such an intense thing for me in my life at the time. So it came through there. But I tried a whole bunch of tips and strategies for a number of years and never got what I wanted. Moments of relief. Moments of relief. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, maybe even a week. But then magically that thing would go away and I go, what happened? That tip really worked great last week. Now I'm on the court playing a match and I'm trying to use the same tip and I got nothing. I got nothing. I don't feel anything. And that's the problem with it. I never owned it. I just borrowed it for a little while. And that's what most of us do. That's why they don't last. make sense to you?
Absolutely, and I can definitely relate to you with when you're saying that the audience is not in their head, because we have an extraordinary listener base, and what you're saying has a counterintuitive calming effect. I'm so tuned into you right now, and I can imagine that the listeners are as well. So,
what an interesting way to put that. How nice. You put that really nicely, better than I did. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Now, tell us then what makes Wired to Win so unique.
Well, bottom line is, I pretty much said it, it's unique because I don't offer a single tip or strategy, so you don't have to worry about that. And the other thing that makes it unique is that I teach laws only, laws and truths. That's all I teach. And I have nothing to do with them. I didn't make them up. I don't own them. I'm not married to them. As I said before, one's belief in them is not a requirement, and one's opinion of them is completely irrelevant, which is very unusual because in most models, most programs, you're given information, tips, strategies, concepts, theories, and your belief in them or about them is actually a factor. And what you usually do is you process what you hear, right? That's how most people learn. They hear some things from the coach or whoever they're working with, and then they process it and they take what feels good and they drop what they don't like. Well, guess what? Because I'm teaching laws and truths, you don't even have an opportunity to do that with these. There is a zero learning curve in Wired to Win, which is fascinating. And the reason there's a zero learning curve is because the laws I talk about don't require your belief. You very easily and quickly understand what they are. There is nothing to figure out, and there's no time you need to take to process any of it. It is so obvious and so clear and so provable that you get it immediately. That's probably the biggest factor. And I noticed over the years that it actually, I'm not in competition with Tony Robbins or Deepak Chopra or Wayne Dyer or anybody else. I love those guys, actually. But what I started to understand is this is not about this versus that. This is actually complementary to every other program out there. Because in its essence, when you do Wired to Win, you are different. And if you're different, you take that difference, that higher level of consciousness, into whatever guru you like. And you take their information and their concepts and tips and so on, and you apply them better. So this is actually a complement to every other thing you would ever do in your life. I'm not in competition with any of those folks. If you do this first, then you go into whatever arena you want, any guru, any teaching you want. It doesn't matter what it is. You will be better in applying it with that guru. It's unbelievable.
It's like a building block. And as you're talking about it, I feel like this sense of relief, really, like, whew, there's not a ton that needs to be done. It's just, it is what it is because it's already a law, and there's no room for interpretations for that. Would you agree with that?
That's right. Yeah, yes, I would. That's very well put. Should I tell you what I mean by laws now?
Sure. Actually, I do have a question before we go into the laws.
Okay.
I had alluded earlier to one of the things that the listeners will learn on the call, and that is the one simple truth that will help us create a positive shift right now.
Okay. I've been kind of touching around it since I've been talking. There are actually two truths. The first truth I want to share is that more information does not equal more success. This is a simple truth. This is not Breslow's opinion. Nothing I say is my opinion, actually, or my concept or anything. So nobody can argue with me. They try, but it doesn't really matter. We kind of get into a laugh fest about it. But it's a very simple truth. Look, and here's the proof. Anybody listening to this will completely get this. More information does not equal more success. Look, in this world, we have a ton of information, right? Is there any shortage of information in this world right now?
Not at all.
No, not at all. So, people gather information. Many people have bookshelves full of CDs and workbook programs they've accumulated over the years that got dust on them now. And most people can relate to this. We've spent a lot of time and money and energy on stuff, personal development stuff. And we've got shelves full of them that we went through them maybe. Most people don't finish them. And the ones that do, stick it up on the shelf after a little while and you kind of forget about it. So the problem is we think that we need to keep gathering more information to keep improving. But if you look at your own life, the proof is right there. I will say to people, how long have you been working on this aspect of you, this confidence thing? Oh, I don't know, 8, 10 years. Okay. Isn't that enough proof in your own life that's telling you that what you're doing is not working? Well, I get a little bit of results here and there. Yeah, a little bit of results here and there. It's 10 years later, and you're calling me, and you still want to talk about confidence. Do you really think it takes that long? Well, I would hope it doesn't, but in your life it is, okay? In the therapy world, in the counseling world, they're actually okay with that. I'm not. Guess what? I get calls from therapists all the time who want to know what the heck I'm doing with their client, because I'm also working with them. And I tell them, look, in your world it takes 6 months to develop confidence. In my world it takes a week. And they're just staggered by that. And it's not because of anything I'm doing, it's because of the laws. As a natural byproduct, somebody's feeling confident on day one because of what they heard and because of what they went and applied. They're feeling confident, and I didn't even really talk about it. So it's just a different point of view and model. You know, you go here, 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 it's a process. You go here, here, and you get a little better. I look at that and I go, no, why? Why does it have to take that long? If you really understood how a human being functions, it doesn't have to take 6 months. It just really doesn't. There I go, Mr. Simple again. So, well, more information does not equal more success. The reality is, if it did, more people will be getting what they want because there's no shortage of information out there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
There's no shortage. So clearly, more information is not the answer. It's just not. That's just a simple truth that's been mythified. Get more information. Keep going. Get more. Get more. So that's truth number one. The most important truth is this one. Very simple. The truth is nothing changes until you do. This is such a simple truth that the majority of us don't even see it. I didn't see it for a long time. I kept thinking all the books and all the people I spoke to and all the information I got was really going to help. And then I realized, wait a minute. They're not telling me what I need to know here. They keep giving me more stuff to think about and more stuff to process and digest and do. And then I realized, no, it's fine. I mean, it's nice to have all that. It's okay. But I understood that that stuff wasn't going to help me change. That's the mistake so many of us make. We believe if we keep gathering that stuff, it's going to be the catalyst for the change. And then we discover that it's really not. If everybody on the line right now looks at their own life, you know you've been gathering stuff from wherever over the years. Be honest with yourself. Didn't you really think or hope that that stuff was going to be the reason for your change? I'm saying yes, I did that. But now take another honest look and understand that none of that stuff is really going to help you change. The one thing that's going to create the change is when you do. And the truth is nothing changes until you do. So when one learns the laws, from day one, they are different. That's why I don't really need tips and strategies. Tips and strategies are designed to help you pretend to be different. But the laws affect you inside. And so what's different is you. You, Pam, are different. You live at a higher level of consciousness. You're more clear. You're making better choices. Those are three of the immediate outcomes that I know you're going to ask me about near the end of the call. What do people really get? That's it. An immediate shot of awareness, an immediate shot of clarity, and the ability to make choices in areas where you have not in the last 10 or 20 or 30 years because you've been looking for ways and other tips and strategies to help you get in position to make those choices. And all of a sudden now you're making them just because you are different. And this is something I really like to hammer on people, maybe even too much sometimes, because I truly get that all that stuff out there, as good as it may sound, the tips and so on, as good as they may sound, and many of them are great. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against them. It's just they're not the final answer. They're just to get you over speed bumps. That's what they're designed to do. They're temporary. They've always been temporary. And when you understand that, you never get frustrated when you use them and then when they go away, because they're supposed to go away, because you're not any different than you were before. So I get calls from people who will say, can I make an appointment with you? And I'll say, no. I'm one of the few people I know who will say no. I mean, most people will gobble that up and go, yeah, sure. What time do you want to get together? Thursday at 10? Great. because it's an appointment and you get paid. I say no because I already understand that if you just want one appointment with me, what you're basically asking me is, Dave, will you give me some tips and strategies to handle whatever problem I throw at you in our conversation? And if you're already doing that, you're already going down the wrong road. You're just going to get temporary stuff, and because you haven't changed, you're going to suffer through the same thing again later on. Why would I want you to do that? So I have a program. You know, it's a process. It's like taking a college class. It starts here and ends here. And you can't start in the middle, and you can't start at the end by taking a test. You know, so it's designed for you to move through the laws and watch what happens from day one. You literally start to shift from day one, and it gets better and better and better because you are getting better and better and better. But does that simple truth make sense to you, that nothing changes until you do?
Absolutely, and it holds us accountable in many ways, and I'm hoping that you can talk to us about that in terms of the power tools that we mentioned in the beginning of the call. Is that where the power tools come in handy with regards to helping us change?
Well, the power tools, you know, it's interesting. When I work with athletes, they call it the mental game. And when I'm working with people in general life, we all have a mental game. And we all have 4 tools that we have been given at birth by which we navigate this thing we call life. They're very simple. And when I say them, sometimes people get disappointed because they're expecting some kind of highfalutin philosophical thing, and it's not. Well, from Mr. Simple, please, no, you're not going to get that. They're very simple, and here they are: your mind, your body, your emotions, and your spirit. That's it. Those are the tools by which every one of us have been given at birth to navigate life. We can navigate it beautifully, or we can navigate it poorly, but those are the tools that will do it. Now, when I say spirit, I don't mean spirituality. Unless one wants it to mean that, that's fine. I'm very comfortable with all of that anyway. But what I really mean is spirit is the essence of a person. It is the deepest, strongest part of you. It's the part of you that allows you to stand in front of a moving vehicle to save a child, for example. It's the part of a person who wants to enlist in the Army and put themselves in harm's way. That is core essence of a person. It's the deepest part of any human being. When a person's spirit is broken, that person is broken, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think it gets any deeper than that. Now, psychology and other fields may say that that's mental or emotional or whatever. I don't see it that way. I think it's way beyond that. It's the core essence of every human being. I don't think there's anything stronger. But the laws now, the mind, body, and emotions produce outcomes together by law. So when you learn the laws, what you're really learning is how the mind, body, and emotions work together by law to produce outcomes. That's where the connection is. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So how is it that the tools that we have, the mind, body, emotions, and spirit, our core essence, how do we use them to blow past fear once and for all?
Well, first of all, you're always using them, okay? You can't not use them. They're always there. They're always in play. There's no part of your life where all 4 of those things are not in play. You can't find a spot. I dare anybody on the call right now to find an area in their life where the mind, body, and emotion and spirit of you is not part of what's going on. You can't. They're inseparable. But when it comes to fear, I have an interesting point of view on fear. Most people I talk to have fear about something or other, and fear is healthy. There's nothing wrong with fear. But what's interesting to me is most people have fear about stuff that they're actually very good at. So, for example, somebody will say to me, well, I have a fear of making mistakes. And I'll ask them, do you make a lot of mistakes? And they go, yeah, I make them all the time. And I'll say, well, why would you be fearful of making mistakes if you make them all the time? You're really good at it. You don't have fear over things you're really good at, do you? Then they look at me and go, I never thought of it that. See, part of my job is I'm slapping consciousness all the time with people. It's like, hello, wake up. So I get to say some really cool things. Yeah, it's fun for me. I get to say some really cool things to people, and you hear it on the audio as well. I say things that life coaches and counselors and therapists, they would never say, because I'm not bound by anything like that. It's not disrespectful at all. People who know me know I'm on their corner more than they are, because I understand that person they want to be is already there. You've got so much crap in the way. My job is to not add more crap on you. It's to subtract, so that beautiful being you are, it begins to emerge. It's already in there. So as you learn the laws and everything, it's really a subtraction process. I'm not adding anything to anybody. So, yeah, I'll say something like, hey, you've been making mistakes for years, right? Oh, yeah, and I have a lot of fear about it. No, you don't. You're really good at it. You can't have fear over something you're really good at. I'm sorry, you just can't. Then they start to realize what I'm saying, and they go, oh, yeah, I wonder why I am afraid of that. I am really good at it, aren't I? Yeah, you do it all the time. Okay. So I know that's just a little thing to get people to kind of snap out of it and go, oh, wait a minute, he's right. I do this a lot. I don't know why I'm afraid of it. Doesn't make any sense. If we're going to parachute and jump out of a plane at 20,000 feet and you've never done that before, I haven't, and have fear about that, okay, I get that. You've never done it before. Fear would be a normal, healthy response to something like that. But making mistakes that you've been doing for 15 years regularly, no, there's no fear there. It's kind of a joke. So here's the little exercise I'd like people on the call to do in relation to fear. Anytime you're feeling any level of fear in any arena, it doesn't matter what it is, here's the question I'd like you to ask yourself. And the question is, what is the opportunity I'm most excited about right now? What is the opportunity I'm most excited about right now? That's the question. If you ask that question, your mind will immediately go on a new track. Because think about this. Fear is something we've mismetabolized as human beings. We've turned excitement inside out. Because every time you're fearing something, you're actually excited about the possibility of something. So, for example, when I was playing tennis, I was in fear almost all the time. And then I took this out to the court, and I started feeling fear over maybe winning a game against somebody. I'd check in and go, wait a minute, what's the opportunity I'm really excited about here? Then my mind would start to go in places like, oh, I have an opportunity to win this game right now. I have an opportunity to win a game against a guy I've never won a game against before. I have an opportunity to break a limitation that I've been putting on myself for 10 years now. That's what I'm excited about. Mm-hmm. And then when I did that, everything changed immediately. My emotions changed, my mental patterns changed, my physical body changed, and my spirit was more in tune. I was more in tune with the essence of who I really am, which is, pretty darn good tennis player who loves to play well. I don't know a tennis player who doesn't want that. That's my essence. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But this question, I'm telling you, folks on the line, fear is a big thing for all of us. Next time you're feeling it in anything, any arena of your life, ask this question because you're excited about something at that moment. That's why you're feeling the fear. Ask the question, what's the opportunity I'm most excited about right now? And your mind will tell you. It could be something as simple as a guy, in a bar trying to ask a girl out or something. You know how guys can be. We get really nervous asking a girl out, and we walk up and kind of mumble, and we stumble, and we kind of look like idiots sometimes. I've certainly done that plenty of times when I was younger. And I wish I would have known this, because as I was walking over, I go, what am I excited about right now? Well, okay, I'm excited about actually just doing this once and for all instead of chickening out, which a lot of guys used to do in my day. I'm excited about actually walking over to somebody and asking them out. Who cares what the answer is at that point? Even if you get rejected, that's the beauty of doing this, is the result is no longer an issue for whatever it is. The result no longer becomes the issue. The issue is, what am I excited about? And that's the driving force for me at the moment. I don't care what happens now. I'm just excited about A, and now I want to go there. If it worked out for me, so what? And that becomes your attitude just because you did this. It's a really fascinating little thing, and it really works.
It's that slapping of the consciousness, and I can really see and experience that sense of relief again from earlier, and the question just completely liberated me from something that I was thinking of, and I can only imagine what the listeners are feeling. And I can also see the connection, because you said when you ask the question, your mind will give you the answer. You don't have to search for it or really think hard about it. It will surface, and that's using that power tool.
That's correct. It will. It will.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
But how can we make the change happen quickly, but also consistently, instead of simply hoping that we're different moving forward?
Well, everything I've been saying thus far is really designed toward that. The best way I know is, I won't be able to give a long, full answer on this. The best way I know is to learn the laws. And obviously I'm not here to teach the laws at the moment, but when one understands the laws, change occurs quickly. And the reason it occurs quickly is because you are different immediately. And when you're different, change occurs on almost every level. It's interesting when a golfer calls me. I work with a lot of golfers on the pro tour and also amateur golfers around the world. They call me, and they, of course, golfers want to play better golf, right? But when they learn the laws, everything else starts to change in their world. Their relationships get better, their communication gets better, and they call me and go, wait a minute, why is all this other stuff happening? I didn't call you for that. I want to play better golf. I said, well, no, look, these are laws. You think they only occur on a golf course? These are laws by which all human beings produce outcomes. So that they impact you everywhere you go, and no matter what you do. It's kind of a lousy business model. My friends laugh at me because they go, hey, you know, you lose money because this guy could have called you for golf, and then he could have called you for work, and he could have called you for relationships, and, you know, you could have got paid for all those things. And I said, yeah, well, maybe, but I don't think I would sleep at night if I just did the quickie, tippy, fixie thing with everybody and gave you, like, here's the 7 ways to better relationships and all that stuff that a lot of people do. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night because I know I'm not giving them what they really need, which is the laws, which means they change. And I know when they change, everything else in their world is going to start to change. It has to. There's no way to segment it in one arena of your life. But there is a big reason why people don't get what they want. Shall I go into that now, the circle exercise?
Yes, please, please.
Okay, because it relates to what you asked me. So here's where I'm going to ask everyone on the line to take out your pen and a blank sheet of paper. And you can do it too, Pam, if you like.
I'm ready.
Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do is draw a horizontal line halfway down the paper. Just draw a line that separates the paper top and bottom in half. Now you have a top half and a bottom half of your paper. In the top half, I'm going to ask you to draw a circle that fills that space. You have some room to write a couple things in there. And then when you're done, write a circle and draw a circle in the bottom half and fill that space. Got that? Okay. So now we're going to go up to the top. We're going to call that circle 1. That circle represents your current limitations. And in that circle, you can list 1 to 3 things that currently limit you. These can be things like procrastination, don't have the financial resources that I want or that I need, poor relationships, negativity, negative self-talk, poor concentration, poor confidence, any of that stuff that the majority of us tend to put down there. So 1 to 3 things. You don't have to put 3 if it doesn't come to mind right now. Fear, those kinds of things. And tell me when you're ready.
I'm good.
Okay. Now go down to the bottom circle. The bottom circle we'll call circle 2, and that is represented by what I want. So what you want is in circle 2, and you can put 1 to 3 things in there and be as specific as possible. If you want more money, don't put more money. Put $80,000 a year if that's what you want, or $250,000 a year if that's what you want, whatever it is. Or better communication, more powerful relationships, whatever it is you want. Put an end to procrastination, or more specifically, be more proactive in my life. Live a more full and abundant life. But even that's general. What does that mean? Abundant in what? In money, in health, in freedom, in joy. Be specific.
Okay.
So 1 to 3 things there. Okay, so here's the beauty of this now. If you look at your paper, you notice that the 2 circles do not connect, correct?
Correct.
Right. So they're 2 separate entities. Here's the big mistake that most of us, if not all of us, make, and I certainly made it for a long time. This is the biggest mistake we make. We think that the junk in circle 1 is going to help us get into circle 2, and it never, ever will. I call it a logical error. Now, we read about this in books, but this thing really takes hold because it's graphic and it's right in front of your face. Here's the reality. The junk we put in circle 1, our logical mind says, oh, okay, I'm not very good at confidence. So the logical thing to do is then work on it and develop it, right? That would be logical. But the mind is really not very good this way. It doesn't work. Although it's logical, it doesn't work. Because look what you're doing. You're putting all of your attention in circle 1. We invest our time, our money, and our energy in circle 1 thinking that we're doing the right thing. Hey, I went to the seminar, I got the workshop, I bought the CD package or whatever, so I'm working on myself. Okay, great. But if you look at that paper in front of you, all you're doing is helping yourself maybe get closer to the edge of circle 1. You see some improvements. You're closer to the edge of circle 1. That's all you've done. But circle 2 is still sitting over there yawning, waiting for you to jump into it. So the reality is circle 1 will never put you into circle 2. Now, to make it even more emphatic, you heard of a guy named Einstein?
Sure have.
Yeah, that guy. He had a great quote that fits this beautifully, I think. And his quote was, and folks can write this down, you can't solve a problem using the same mind that caused the problem in the first place.
Right.
You can't solve a problem using the same mind that caused the problem in the first place. Now, look at circle 1. Circle 1 is your old mind. And the problem with it is there's nothing new in your old mind. Never will there be anything new. The old mind is limited by your attitudes, your experience, what you know, what you believe. All this junk is sitting in circle 1. All it is everything you've known up until this moment in time. Circle 2 has none of those limitations. Circle 2 is filled with possibilities. It has nothing in it but what you put in it. So what's really fascinating to me is while we're hanging out in circle 1, our focus has to be on circle 1 junk. This will still not get you into circle 2. Now, I used to do my own teleseminars, 90-minute teleseminars. I would always go over this. And when I was done, I would sit in front of my computer and I'd see these emails come in the subject line, it would say, help, stuck in circle 1, help, prisoner in circle 1, help, want to be in circle 2. And I'd sit there and laugh because people got it. This was the one thing people remembered most out of the 90 minutes because they would say to me, you know, I'd heard this before and I'd read it in books before, but I never really understood it until I saw it on paper. I literally can see that I've been spending all my time trying to fix and better the things in circle 1, and now I can see that that will never really get me into circle 2. It gets me a little closer, and I feel a little better for a little while, but now I see why.
Yeah,
this is
it
why
makes so much
change.
sense.
Yeah, it does. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculously simple. It's almost too simple for some people to believe. It's like, really? Come on. Can it be that simple? Yeah, because this is what stops us from really getting what we want. We keep thinking, this logical error, that, oh, I got to fix all this stuff. No, you don't. No, you don't. So when you do Wired to Win, day 1 with the laws, guess where you are?
Circle 1.
No. You're in circle 2 right away. My job is to have you in circle 2 right from the get-go.
Right away. That's amazing.
I
And
know.
look at my old patterns wanted me to answer it the way I did, which was circle 1, which is so false.
Your circle 1 just answered that question because you do that out of
That's
habit.
exactly right.
And I know that when I'm talking to people, I'm talking to them from circle 2, but I know they're listening to me from circle 1, which has all their filters, all their fear, all their hesitation, all their excuse making. I'm telling you, all of that garbage is in circle 1.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with me answering it the way that I did. That's crazy.
It's just Circle One running the show like it always has. That's all. Doesn't make you a bad person.
That.
Well, you will when you get into Circle Two. That won't be an issue.
There you go. So I can't believe how time has flown by. I'm just so appreciative of the time that we've been spending together on the phone call. David, we do have just a few minutes left, and I want to make sure that people who are listening, I get really excited about helping people take control of their lives, and there's so much more to learn from you specifically that I've asked you to create a special offer for everyone who's listening to the call. And I got to tell everyone, I highly encourage you to go to David's special offer right now to experience it for yourself. I want to let you know what that link is. It is www.awakentoyourgreatestlife.com/win. That's WIN. And before we go, David, any final thoughts that you have to give us to help us transform our experience right now with you?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to offer one other tool that people can use immediately now. This is something that's on the audio, and I do it with my live coaching clients as well, and I want to share it with everybody on the call here. This is really an attitude. It's a mindset that I'm offering here. And I'd like everybody to write this down on a 3x5 card. If you write it on your paper, that's fine. Transfer it to a 3x5 card. Take it with you everywhere you go. I don't care what you're doing. This now becomes your reason for being anywhere you are. I don't care if it's a grocery store. I don't care if it's the gym. I don't care if it's work or you're talking to your spouse or talking to your kids. Doesn't matter where you are. This now becomes your reason for being there. So please write this down. Anywhere you are is an opportunity to express all your talents, an opportunity to express all of your talents fully and freely, while overcoming your barriers with ease and awareness. I'll say it again. An opportunity to express all your talents fully and freely while overcoming your barriers with ease and awareness. Now, the reason I have people write this down is because you talked about that I work with corporate folks and athletes in the private sector as well. And everybody finds themselves in situations in life, whatever it is. And I say, look, if you focus on all the wrong things, which a lot of people do, it creates the fear and the anxiety and so on and so forth, here's your reason for being there right now. If you really understand that this is your reason to be there, to express your talents fully and freely, all your talents, while overcoming your barriers, because we're going to have them. The fear is going to pop up. The doubt's going to pop up. All that stuff is going to pop up. It's fine. You're going to express all your talents fully and freely, and you're going to overcome those barriers with ease and awareness. Now, maybe the folks on the call don't know how to do that yet at the moment, because I didn't really talk about the laws and one of the laws in specific where you could actually do that with ease and awareness. But if you write this down on a 3x5 card and you put it in your pocket or your purse or somewhere where you can either tap it or touch it and you know it's there, your mind will remember it and it'll go, oh, yeah, that's the only reason I'm here right now. The only reason I'm in this office right now is to express my talents, all of my talents, fully and freely. Imagine what your life would be like if you were able to remind yourself to do that in any situation you're in. What happens to people is they feel free at the moment. The restrictions start to come off because the idea of expressing yourself fully and freely is very warming to people. It's very relaxing to people. So, oh, I get to express myself fully and freely here? Okay. That's kind of nice. I like to do that. I've never really done that before. Okay. And you get to overcome your barriers because they're going to pop up. This way you're not surprised. You don't have to fight and resist anything. They're going to pop up. So what? I'm going to overcome my barriers with ease and awareness. Even though we didn't get into that, you'll actually, even if you don't know anything else from me, you'll actually start to even do this with ease and awareness just because this is your reason for being there. Now, how many people go places in their lives with that as their reason for being there? Even the grocery store. If you go in there with the express purpose of expressing your talents fully and freely, all of a sudden your entire mood changes. I've had people tell me, I go to places, Dave, and people come up to me and go, hey, why are you so happy? Why do you have a smile on your face? And you don't even know it. You're giving off this vibe, this energy that's all of a sudden so different because your mind, body, and emotions govern or function by law to produce that experience. You just did that. You don't even know what law you applied right there, but you did because you could not have had that change in you and that vibration and that experience without applying that law to create that. You don't know what that is yet, but I'm telling you, you had to use it. Otherwise, you would have never had that kind of an outcome.
That's amazing.
So I wanted to make sure I left people with another tool, at least. We had the fear tool and this tool that they could at least apply immediately. That fear question you can apply immediately when you hang this phone up, anywhere you go. And this, write it down on a 3x5 card. It will change your outlook, your attitude, at a single moment, snap of a finger, wherever you are.
Mm-hmm.
And watch what happens. Watch what happens.
Thank you for that. So you mentioned the laws, David. What are the laws you speak about, and can you give us one of them that will show us the power we have to alter our experience at any moment?
Yes. Let me talk about laws quickly. Obviously, I mentioned the word law several times. So let's get on the same page. Let me define what a law is for everyone. And grab your pencil or pen. A law is something that's true for everyone, everywhere, at all times. Everyone, everywhere, at all times. So you can see there's no gray area there. There's no yeah, but. There's no sometimes and not others, or it functions over here but not over there. No, it's a law. It functions everywhere, everyone, at all times. So there's a pre-law. I teach 7 laws. There's a pre-law to that, and that law is the more honest you are with yourself, the quicker you get what you want. The more honest you are with yourself, the quicker you get what you want. Now, what does that really mean? It means that what you're willing to see, you can change. See, a lot of people are not willing to see the truth about themselves. And I guarantee you, if you're not, you just made your journey that much more difficult. Because that's a law. I didn't make it up. I have nothing to do with it. And it's a law because it's true for everybody. The more honest you are with yourself, if you're willing to admit something, it can't hurt you anymore. Put it out in the sunlight. Because if you don't admit it, what you're basically saying is this problem is going to occur again and again and again. And you keep looking for somebody to give you a new tip or a new strategy, and that's just the wrong road to go down. I think we've established that already. So that's the definition of a law. Let me give you a couple of really quick examples of what I mean. These aren't one of the 7 laws, but the law of planting. You can plant an apple seed, and you can pray all you want. You can chant on a mountainside all you want in the hopes that a watermelon is going to show up, and guess what? It's not going to happen. Not because I say so, because the law of planting says so. If you plant an apple seed, you have to get an apple. I have nothing to do with it. You can't get mad at me that a watermelon didn't show up. And example number 2 is the law that we're under the influence of all the time, of course, and everybody knows it, gravity. So let's say, Pam, for example, you and I are up at 20,000 feet and we're going to parachute. The door opens, you walk over to it, and before you step out, you look at me and you go, Dave, I don't believe in gravity, never have, never will. And I'm just going to look at you and go, okay. And Pam steps out of the plane. What's going to happen to Pam?
It's going to fall like a rock.
Yeah, you're going down, Pam. That's just the way it is.
Right.
So when I say to people your belief is not necessary and your opinion is irrelevant, this is what I mean. Do you think planting, the law of planting and the law of gravity care one bit what you or I believe? Not one bit. They have a job to do. They produce an outcome. And what's interesting is everybody understands this when I explain it to them. They go, yeah, I understand. I understand why gravity doesn't care what I think. It's going to do what it does, regardless of what I think. I get that. What most people don't get, though, is that their lives are under the influence and governed by laws that are just as precise, just as predictable, and just as provable as planting and gravity. And that's where the Wired to Win program begins. This is why I don't need big assessments and why I don't need tips and strategies and concepts and theories.
Right.
They're just not necessary. And so the laws, everybody gets gravity right away, right? How much time do you have to think about gravity to see if it applies to you? The answer is none. You get it immediately. And so you get these laws I'm talking about just as quickly. That's why I mentioned before there's no learning curve. There's nothing to think about. How much do you have to think about the law I just mentioned? The more honest you are with yourself, the quicker you get. Do you really have to process that? No. What you're willing to see, you can change. What you're not willing to see, you don't have a shot. It's that clear. It's that simple. If you're not willing to see it, it is not going to change. I don't care who you talk to. I don't care who you go to. It is not going to change unless you're willing to see it and until you're willing to see it. You can spend years working at it and spend thousands of dollars on it, but it's not going to change until that moment you say, okay, I'm an alcoholic. I'm a smoker who can't stop smoking, or whatever it is. But anybody who has an addiction like that, that's the moment they have to come to, right? Before they get better, they have to come to that moment where they look in the mirror and go, okay, I'm an alcoholic and I'm weak at the moment and it's running me. Okay, good.
Or I'm an emotional eater or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. I have a fear about money or I have a fear of intimacy, whatever it is. I'm not really that confident. That's a common one that people walk around the planet pretending to feel better than they actually do because the social mask is up. Because the world has told us, you better put that up there, dude. And then we talk and I say, look, why don't you just get to the truth? Why don't you just say to me, Dave, I feel really unconfident about this. Great. I'm not going to laugh at you. You put it out there. Now it can't hurt you. Now we can go into circle 2 and do something with it. Thank you very much. Because that's all circle 1 garbage. It's been holding you back for years, unnecessarily. Would you just put it out there and say it? No big deal. It can't hurt you. It's out in the sun.
I just really appreciate the way that you just are able to convey the truth of what you're saying, and I've so enjoyed this call, and I'm so appreciative of the special offer that you've created for us. The part of the special offer, I mean, if those of you, the benefits that are there is greater clarity, an incredible new sense of confidence. We'll gain a level of awareness that we won't believe, and a shift that in what you think and feel and do every day. And I just am so appreciative of that, David.
And the ability to make new choices very quickly. That's one of the other immediate benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to give everyone that link one more time. And again, I'm highly encouraging you to go there. It is www.awakentoyourgreatestlife.com/win, and that's WIN.
It is called Wired to Win, 7 Laws, 21 Days, Transform the Way You Live, Work, and Play. And it's called that because, yes, 7 laws, but what happens is after each law, I'm asking you on the audio series to take the next 3 days and go apply it in your life. You remember before I talked about the reason tips and strategies don't work is because we don't own it. When you go apply the law for 3 days, I'm no longer part of the equation. I'm not in your ear anymore. Go away from me. Go apply the law you just learned, and it's really simple and easy to get as gravity and planting. You'll get it. You see for yourself that this law is real. It's, oh, my God, this law is actually real. Now I understand it, and as you understand it, you now start to use that law consciously to do things differently. That's what happens over the 3 days. Then when you come back, what's going to happen in your inbox, you get day 1, and then 3 days later you get an email that says day 2 is ready for you. And then you click the link, and it takes you to day 2. And it's an accumulation. Every law works on the one before. And it gets better and better and better. That's why it's 21 days. 7 laws times 3 days in between. 21 days. There are 9 audios. They're all full-length audios. You don't get cheated. Nobody gets cheated on time. There are 9 study guides and 5 bonuses, and, of course, the 30-day guarantee. So there are 7 audios that talk about the laws. The last 2 audios are bonus audios that you get with it. One of them is going to talk about how to now use these things and create daily rituals so that you get up in the morning and you're already in that really amazing state, and then how to keep that going during the day. And then the last audio is 11, I can't remember, it's either 11 or 12 extra cool tools that help reinforce the usage of the laws. So it's very comprehensive, very comprehensive. And I just wanted people to understand why it's 21 days and why I don't dump everything on everybody at once. Because some people say, well, can't you just put all the audios, give it at once to us? And I say no, because that's another mistake that I think is made in the world. is that if I give you all 9 audios, you're going to start on like law number 6 because you like the name or something, and you're going to completely bypass all the other stuff that gets you there. I don't want that for folks. I want them to get the benefit of, on purpose, law number 1 first, law number 2, and then law number 3, and everything is done sequentially to build and build and build on what took place before. So if I give it to you all at once, I'm gathering information again. It's like it's an information glut. And that's the same game we already talked about that I don't want people to play because it doesn't work. And then people go, oh, man, yeah, that didn't really work either. Well, of course it didn't. You took all 9 laws in one shot, and then you just listen to them at random, and that doesn't work. That does not work, and I know that.
Thank you, David, for spending the time with us and sharing, and thank you, everyone, for listening. I look forward to our next call together, David.
Me as well, Pam. This was great, as I expected it would be. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.